What's up guys, welcome to Found Flicks. Twin Peaks continues its monumental run with parts 3 and 4 that really stretch the limits of what the show is capable of into strange and exciting new directions. Part 3 in particular had by far the weirdest stuff we've ever seen in the show. But then part 4 took things into another even more surprising direction. It's really hilarious. At first it seemed like things were always going to be really dark, but then the humor slowly started seeping back in, reminiscent of the original show. Alright, there's a lot of really crazy highlights to look at in these episodes, so let's dive right into the most what the fuck moments from parts 3 and 4. The entire opening sequence of episode 3 is so out there in a way we never saw in the original show. I could do a whole what the fuck video just going through this scene alone. As I mentioned before, the show now feels more like David Lynch's films, and this fits right in with his trademark style. First of all, it's just downright creepy. The weird choppy motion of the scene makes things feel very otherworldly. And of course, there's the lady with no eyes. Dale explores the area, finding a strange device on the wall that resembles a steampunk electrical outlet. But the lady is more concerned about the incessant banging of something nearby, apparently her mother. They then take a ladder to the roof of the building, and when they come out of the top, they are somehow in space. And there is no underneath part to where they are, and bizarrely it appears to be a separate independent box floating somewhere in space. There's a metal tube of sorts on top as well that is housing the lady's mother. She then pulls a lever, letting it out. Based on the timing of this, I believe that her mother is the same creature that killed Tracy and Sam. We saw Cooper actually appeared in the glass box right before the creature showed up, so the timing of events lines up here. After the woman falls off the box into space, the giant head of Major Briggs appears, swimming by and saying Blue Rose, the name associated with cases of the paranormal in the show. Well, that's definitely a safe bet here. It's often thought that Blue Rose referred to aliens, and this box in outer space seems to back that up a bit more, though I'm still doubtful aliens are behind everything. In part 3, we meet yet another version of Cooper called Dougie Jones, who we see is wearing the owl ring. Apparently Dougie was actually manufactured, and thusly his time on Earth is cut short to fulfill his intended purpose, which is to take the place of Doppeldale back at the lodge. He has known about the eventual day the lodge would try to bring him back in, and in order to avoid this, he created Dougie to get taken instead. Doppeldale is affected by the lodge beckoning as the clock ticks to 2:55 and his cigarette lighter crackles with electricity. He's forced to pull over and the red curtains appear in front of his car as Doppeldale tries to keep himself from vomiting. Meanwhile, Dougie throws up and he is whisked away to the lodge. Quite confused by what is going on, the arm Dougie was wearing the ring on shrivels away. As Dougie says,
"That's weird."
And then his head pops off, revealing black smoke underneath. From that, a gold orb and a black coal-like rock appear and then form together, leaving only the small gold ball in place of Dougie. Back in the desert, the curtains start to dissipate, and knowing the exchange has occurred, Doppeldale finally spills the beans, vomiting up all that pain and sorrow or garmonbozia he's been collecting, which is the life force of the lodge's residents. On top of that, back in the weird house by the Purple Sea, Coop forces his way through the electrical field around one of those weird outlet-looking devices, and his body is sucked inside, leaving only his shoes behind. He manifests his way out of an electrical outlet at Dougie's house, first appearing as smoke that forms into the shape of Coop. He made it back to the real world. Huzzah! However, it's not that easy, as Coop isn't himself and has been deeply affected by his decades in the lodge, as we soon learn. After returning through the outlet, Coop has almost seemingly been reborn. He can barely walk and can only speak by mirroring what someone else just says. It's strange seeing our normally chatty Coop being so quiet, and it leads to an absolutely hilarious and weird sequence at the Silver Mustang Casino. Coop bumbles his way around, managing to get some change, and watches someone play on a slot machine. Strangely, he then notices a vision of the lodge perched over a nearby machine. He takes this as a sign, and he proceeds to mirror the other player he just saw in every detail, including calling out, "Hello! Hello!" And he winds up being the big winner, with the clueless Coop staring blankly as the machine explodes in quarters. It's strange that the visions appear actually beneficial in this case. There's never been anything equating the lodge with luck, but that certainly seems to be the case with Coop and his visions here. Things escalate quickly as he continues to play the machines with the lodge visions overhead, racking up a huge amount of winnings to the concern of the casino. But the best part is the crotchety old lady that is jealous of Coop's unbelievable luck. At first she is annoyed, and she too becomes a winner thanks to the lodge's appearance. So many times in fact that she later returns to Coop hands full of checks, calling him Mr. Jackpots. The way the scene plays out is so funny, and the way that Coop interacts with people in his feeble way, and that's somehow leading him to having a fat sack of cash, is just great. The sequence with Coop living Dougie's morning routine was another surprisingly delightful scene. It wasn't overtly weird, but the overall feel and kind of scene was so drastically out of character for anything I would expect from the show. And it still worked extremely well, further pushing the tone of the show into new directions. Coop is still not himself and continues to have firsts like going to the bathroom and even relearning his trademark thumbs up. When he comes down to breakfast, the scene is pure gold, accompanied by Dave Brubeck's Take 5. Coop enters wearing a tie on his head, and he still doesn't understand the simplest of tasks. It's all thanks to Sonny Jim's curious amusement with Cooper that he happily lends a hand with his befuddled dad. The scene continues with a casual pace, building to when Janie E sets down a cup of coffee in front of Coop. Hilariously written on the cup, "I am Dougie's coffee." And it seems that some part of Coop remembers the life-giving beverage as he lets out a reactive coffee upon seeing it. And we are hoping that when Coop takes the sip, he will remember everything and be back to his old self. Without thinking, Coop takes a big sip of the extremely hot coffee, spitting it out, in a reference to a scene from an original series episode, saying "hi" with a big goofy grin on his face. I don't think this completely brought Coop back, but I'm sure important things like coffee will continue to help evolve Coop back to his old self. First mentioned in the premiere, the 4th episode introduced us to the second son of Andy and Lucy, WALLY BRANDO. He's played by Michael Cera in possibly the most perfect casting of all time, and Cera is a delight in this very extended, ridiculous scene. Just look at him! They mention he was born on the same day as Marlon Brando, and this obviously had a big impact on WALLY, as he rides a motorcycle and wears a similar outfit to Brando, with WALLY adorably stitched on the jacket. Man, that's hardcore. But he doesn't just look like Brando, WALLY emulates Brando's voice too, with a completely awful yet wonderful accent that he never lets up for the entire scene.
Their footsteps have been the highways and byways of my days on the road.
This scene was all about letting Cera do his thing, and it really is a wonderfully silly diversion for the show to take. It's funny too, as WALLY talks endlessly with the rest of the cast saying almost nothing, though Sheriff Truman does mutter a few words that seem to hit especially close to home for WALLY.
May the road rise up to meet your wheels.
That's a lovely turn of phrase.
Cooper and Cole's reunion is one that fans were waiting for anxiously, and should have been a joyous occasion. But since it is in fact Doppeldale meeting with Cole, there's a much more sinister and odd feeling to the proceedings. But Cole has no idea that the person he's meeting with is not his old friend at all, but his evil doppelganger. The scene plays out almost as one would imagine their reunion being, with warm feelings upon seeing each other, and Doppeldale giving his best attempt at a friendly thumbs up. But it's clear that there is something very wrong with this Dale, possibly because of vomiting out all of his evil energy, with his voice sounding strange and low, as well as repeating himself verbatim at one point when asked where he's been all these years. There also seems to be something more going on between Albert and Doppeldale, as when Dale mentions he left messages, he gives Albert a knowing glance. Albert later reveals that he did give this Dale information at one point that led to the death of an agent in Colombia, but it feels like there's more to Albert's involvement in this whole thing. After this meeting, Cole is suspicious of this Dale too, but admits that he has no idea what's going on here. Well, if Lynch himself doesn't know what's going on, then I guess we're pretty much totally screwed. That'll do it for my look at episodes 3 and 4 of Twin Peaks: The Return. What a wild ride it's been so far. I'm absolutely loving what we've seen in the first 4 parts. It's adding so much to the original show's mythology and continues to surprise with plots that no one would ever see coming. What did you guys think of parts 3 and 4? And what was the craziest moment to you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching Found Flicks. See you next time.